get organized. Know what you own, know what you owe, right? So you should be focused on like, know where all your money is, know where your assets are, what your debts are, know your terms of your debts, like build out a net worth statement.
This is Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast where we ask the question, what does growth in dentistry look like to you? I'm Katie Polson, a dental hygienist and your host. Welcome to another episode of Growth in Dentistry. I am Katie Polson, and we have an exciting topic this month talking about making the most of downtime. So the reason why, and I lovingly call September Sucktember, which most people will hopefully genuinely relate to, but hopefully it's not news to you in the dental industry that September is a low time for lots of people. And gosh, for a lot of people, even the last couple of weeks in August. So that being said, we're going to get into making the most of that. But also, I wanted to bring on Matt Mulcock from Dentist Advisors because of the possible R word that is happening, maybe.
Nasty R word.
The nasty R word. It's a swear word, but we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. So before we get started, though, I wanted to give an opportunity for those of you who are new listeners to our show to please join our Facebook Dental Intelligence Podcast community. We have some great conversations there about data and how it applies to your practice and all the things that you want to do to improve there. So it's a great community. We also have actually a community specifically for our customers within our growth platform as well, which is a really awesome place with forums and great topics as well. So you want to maybe check that as well. If you are not a customer and you want to be one, which I highly suggest you do, you can go to get.dentalintel.com/podcasts, and we will have that link in our show notes. And as a listener of our show, you will get a $50 gift card when you complete a demo. So with all of that being said, I, again, have Matt Mulcock from Dentist Advisors. Welcome to the show. Give us a little,
thanks,
I've had
Katie.
you on before, but it's been a while. So give us a little intro of who you are and what Dentist Advisors is.
Yeah, I think last time I was on the show was we were in Arizona and you walked up to me at that event.
Said, can I borrow your microphone?
Yeah, you borrowed our mic. Yeah, we had a whole setup there.
Hi,
so
I'm at a podcast show and I'm not prepared.
Yeah. I'm excited to be here. So yeah, Matt Mulcock, I'm a senior advisor and the director of financial services at Dentist Advisors. So Dentist Advisors, we are a fee-only fiduciary financial planning and investment management firm just for dentists. So we work with about 450 dentists all over the country. We help them with comprehensive planning. So anything from estate planning to insurance, debt, investing, all of the above. And we don't sell products. So, people pay us a fee and we advise them in a comprehensive way. So really excited to be here.
Awesome. We couldn't have a better company and person on the show today for this specific topic. And also, I mean, you guys have been around for so long that I'd be surprised if there's someone listening to the show that hasn't heard of you.
Yeah. But I think there always are. There's always people that are like, wait, who are you? Yeah.
Oh, really? That's so surprising to me. But that being said, you guys do some great work. So that being said, nobody wants to be forced, I guess, into downtime. We've experienced that in 2020. It was not fun. We all were panicking. However, I think that there was a lot of good that came out of that. Now that we have hindsight and I'm not trying to make a pun here, but hindsight's 2020. We can look back and think, okay, downtime forced me to make this type of change, and I'm the far better for it. And so that being said, when we're looking into September and also just this possible recession, I don't know. Every time I get on the news, I don't know. It depends on like, Matt, are we headed for a recession? Yeah. I'm starting to freak out.
Yeah.
Is it a big R? Is it a little R? I don't know any of these things. But that being said, how do you can either grow or digress or get smaller and kind of falter in downtime. So what are some of your thoughts on dentists and practice owners and how they can potentially optimize this downtime in September and maybe possibly through a recession? To kind of come out ahead financially for them?
Yeah, first, I mean, I love the way that you frame that as saying like you have a choice in this, right? You have a choice of how you look at this. It's either an opportunity or it's an obstacle. So I think is have like get your mind right around like what how you're going to look at this because I think it's a really great way you frame that. So yeah, I mean, I think, and you said we're coming out of a crazy time in COVID, especially 2020. I always say that March of 2020 was the most stressful time of my career. It was the most unknown, like living in the middle of like just I literally did not know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
You
We all
think,
felt that. Mm-hmm.
yeah, we all felt that, and I was like, man, my clients' practices are literally being shut down, mandated to be shut down by the
Yeah.
government. It was
No
wild.
force. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
By
forced to be shut
Uh-huh.
down. I've never, it's obviously something we've never seen before. So
or thought that was possible.
exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think so. To your question of saying, okay, what do we do? First, again, look at this as an opportunity. I think there's a few key areas that you can kind of be thinking about. So number one is if you find yourself with some downtime, right? Whether it just be September, which I think it's funny that you say that because I'm like, okay, dentists are thinking this possibly from the having some downtime. I think their kids are also thinking it's September because school has now started, summer is over. So everyone's just hating September, right?
Right.
But if you find yourself with some downtime, so I think the number one thing I would be thinking about is it's a good opportunity to reevaluate goals. I'd say goals and values, both on the personal and on the career side, right? So asking yourself the question, like, am I living the life that I want? Both career, am I running the practice that I want? Or am I, if you're an associate, like, am I in the place that I want to be? Or is this an opportunity for me to reevaluate that and to be thinking about something else? And on the personal side, am I living where I want to be living? Am I living my best life on the personal side? I always think these are chances to just be thinking about that. One way to help facilitate this thought, like this thought exercise, you can just go online, go to Google and look up values exercise. There's going to be several different ones, but they're all going to be kind of the same. It takes about 10 minutes. We do this internally. I do this with clients every once in a while. I think it's always an opportunity to be thinking about the values and are you living your life in alignment with your values, right? So that'd be number one. Number two would be, is there a project that you now have time to execute on? Again, both whether that be personal or whether that be in the practice. Is there a project that you've been thinking about for a while and now you find yourself with some extra time to start executing on? I think it's a good opportunity for that. And then number three is just getting organized. So it's a great opportunity to dial in, your practice, and again, personal as well. Review the P&L. Where's cash going? What am I spending on? What do my systems look like? I think this is a great chance to take a step back and just get organized and reevaluate the numbers, the business, and the things like your systems and are they working well? Or are they not?
I love that. It's a great one. As you were talking, I was thinking of some of the stuff that you're numbering. I'm thinking of people I do in January, the beginning of the year. But I think for dental practices, January and December are too crazy that some of this stuff just doesn't ever get done because they might be thinking of the new year, but make September your January, I guess, if that makes sense. Make it your new year, make it a fresh start, or reevaluate and get organized. I love that idea.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point, Katie. I think it's funny how we do that. Humans do that, right? We like stories that make sense. We like routines. We think of everything via in terms of a year, right? A calendar year. When in reality, to your point, I love what you just said, is like anytime you can take a step back, get a fresh start over. That could be daily. That could be in the middle of a day. It could be the middle of a week, a month. It doesn't matter when it is. I think you should be constantly thinking about, am I living my life according to my values? Are my actions in line with my values? It doesn't have to be a January thing. There's a reason why most people don't stick to resolutions in January, because it kind of just becomes this like cliche thing that people are supposed to do. I think there's any times an opportunity to be thinking about that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just started a diet in the middle of the week, people. I didn't wait till Monday.
Yeah.
I just did it on a Wednesday.
My diet is constantly, Monday never comes for me. Diet is always Monday.
Way to
Yeah.
like you're never on? Or
Base,
you're
I
always
try
on?
basically
Oh,
never. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I know. It's summer's rough. I mean,
Yes.
it's a real problem. That being said, okay, so in the event, we're gonna move kind of more financially because I want to have your financial brain.
Yeah.
In the event of a big R or a little R recession, which what is on, I guess, your mind? Like, what are you preparing for
Yeah.
personally or professionally? And what advice are you giving to some of your clients to prepare for the potential recession?
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah. That's
saying
a great question.
potential anymore? Is it happening? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So it might seem obvious, but the first thing I'd say is no one really knows. People will pretend to know, but no one knows. Right. And a lot of times, and it's really hard to know for a couple of reasons. Number one is like the data you're looking at, right? Because if you look at the traditional definition of a recession, what most people would tell you, like if you just walked up to an economist and said, give me your definition of a recession, chances are they're going to say it is 2 straight quarters of GDP, like negative GDP. Basically, what that means is the slowing of the economy, right? The production and things happening in the economy in the US has now slowed, or what they'd call contracted. By that definition, we are technically in one, right? We've had 2 straight quarters now of negative GDP. So you might look at that and say, oh, okay, well, dang, we're in a recession. Like that sucks. But it's much more complicated than that. And if you look at like the data from the National Bureau of Economic Research, we are not in a recession. They get much more detailed in how they define it. Because if you just looked at that GDP number, you tell, oh, we're in a recession. That must mean that the prices of housing have collapsed. Well, no, they have not. The labor market must be completely turned on its head. Well, no, the labor market's actually its strongest it's been in 50 years. And so it's really hard to define what a recession actually is. And it's always usually a looking back type metric. So we never can say like, oh, we are in one. Again, the news will try to tell you that we're in one, or social media or people trying to sell you something will always say, we're in one. Here's what you do, buy this product and we'll save you type of thing. But no one really knows. So that's the hard part is, again, it's hard to define. And you said it earlier, and this is the first thing that I thought of when you asked this question is I'm always shocked at the power of narrative, the power of the 24-hour news cycle, because you said it earlier. The very first thing you said was, I'm hearing this everywhere. Right.
Yeah.
So that always shocks me. To give you a more detailed definition really quick of, again, this is coming from the National Bureau of Economic Research. Again, we have to get more detailed than just saying 2 straight quarters of negative GDP, right? There's really 3 main criteria, right? So number one is depth. So like how severe, you said little r, big R, right? Or big R, little r, which one is it? If you look at that, the contraction in economic growth has been the depth it's been very shallow, right? It's basically flatlined, but we don't have massive, very deep recession or a drop in economic activity, right? The numbers have actually been 1.2% negative both quarters. So very shallow. Number 2 is what they call diffusion, basically how widespread is the economic slowdown. It is not widespread at this point. And then number 3 is duration. So again, is this happening for a long time? Based on that data, or based on those criteria, we are not in a recession as of right now, from what we can tell, right? Things are, again, labor market being a very big, strong indicator of this, is that the labor market is still very, very strong. So I'll stop there for a second. That's probably a lot to throw at you, but
no, it's good, because I think that we can't assume that everybody knows, what I mean, because again, if you only get your information like me from TikTok, then what?
You are in trouble. Yes.
You don't know anything.
Then you're in trouble. Yes.
Then the house is burning down.
Yes. Always. So there's 2 things, just to your question, there's 2 things that I always think about, or I try to think about, and I try to like have other people think about, whether that be clients or on webinars we do, or our podcasts we do. There's really 2 things that you should be thinking about. Number 1, this is normal, right? Like whatever happens, it's normal. Like since the creation of modern economies, it has always been a cycle, right? So we are entering, there's no question we're if we're not in a recession or headed one, right? Like at some point it's going to happen because it just always does, right? The cycle continues. So number one, this is normal. Number two, there are a few things that you can do that I can do that you can do personally to control any of this. Like you can only control so many things and they're quite few. All of your time and energy should be focused on those few things. And everything you're seeing on TikTok or the 24-hour news cycle or social media in general, most of those things they're talking about, like you can't control. They're just there to scare you and get your eyeballs on the screen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, what can we control? I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
What can I control?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. So the advice I would give, like, let's say we know for sure we're going into a recession. Let's just say it. Like we know, and we even know when. Let's say it's going to be
2008 again.
Yeah, maybe let's say it'll be 2080. And that's actually a really good point. I'm actually glad you brought that up. We'll hit this really quick. I hear this all the time as well. And it's very, very common because the most vivid thing on our minds from like when we hear recession, especially like our generation and even older generations, it's 2008, 2009, right? That's what we think of when we like recession means 08, 09. That is not, those two things are very different, right? I'm not saying we're not headed to that. We could be. Yeah. I don't think we are. If I'm just giving my personal opinion, I think I think we're more likely, if you just look at the odds, it's much more likely to have like, again, what we'd call a normal recession, like just a normal cycle.
Yeah.
Just because people are railing or saying like recession, it does not mean it's 08 or 9 levels. And like the housing market is a great example of this. Right. Everyone is saying, because the housing market across the country has been so crazy. Everyone's saying, well, this has to be 08 or 9 again. Well, no, actually that's not true. And the data does not support that even a little bit. That could not be more different. This is not an 08 or 9 situation in the real estate market, not even close. Yeah. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's good. That's important. Yeah.
But as far as the advice that I would give, again, we're saying, let's just assume we're headed to one and we're headed to one this year. My advice honestly wouldn't change what I'm giving people most of the time in focusing on the things that you can control, right? It might be more magnified right now, but there might be some like level of urgency that I would say is higher now than it was maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, but it remains the same. So number one, I'd say get organized. Know what you own, know what you owe, right? So you should be focused on like, know where all your money is, know where your assets are, what your debts are, know your terms of your debts, like build out a net worth statement, right? So net worth statement just being, again, what do I own minus what do I owe? And then the number below that, or the answer to that equation is your net worth, right? You should be reviewing that probably once a quarter at minimum. So if you haven't done that, that's number one. Get organized around your assets, right? And your debts. And then also within that category of being organized is cash flow, knowing what is going on with your cash flow in your business. I already mentioned this earlier, like what you could do with downtime. You really should be doing this beforehand to prepare for a recession. And just, again, this should be a part of your routine. So know what's going on the P&L, your cash flow in your business, and know what's happening on the personal side. There's only 4 places your money can go. You can save it, you can spend it, it can go towards debt or goes towards taxes. So know where else your money can go. So if you don't know where your money's going, like those are the 4 places, those are the 4 categories you should be looking at to really simplify this. Am I spending it? Am I saving it? Is it going towards my debt? Or is it going towards taxes? You should really get organized around that. Number 2 thing to be thinking about right now, and this probably falls in line with the organization part, is having ample cash on hand. So there are 3 reasons to have cash, right? Number 1 is your personal emergency fund. So 3 to 6 months of your monthly spending in personal emergency fund. In the business, and then on your business emergency fund, number 2 area would be 1.5 to 3 times your monthly overhead. Just basically take what is my monthly break even, multiply it by 1.5 or up to 3 times to have cash in the business. Right now, I'd say, Katie, if you're worried about a recession, I'd maybe up that, right? Yeah. Up to, maybe 3, more towards the 3 than the 1.5. And then the 3rd reason to have cash would be any project, right? So like any upcoming project, anything that's 2 years out or less, what I'd consider short term, and you should be piling that money in cash in a separate account for a project, either that be on the personal or on the business side of things. The last thing I'd say, don't stop investing. We get this question a lot from people. Should I be turning off my savings drafts or my investment drafts? Should I be pulling my money out and sitting in cash and waiting? Do not do that. I cannot emphasize that enough. Do not interrupt your compounding unnecessarily, right? Continue to invest through ups and downs. That is how you create wealth, is letting time do its thing. And don't think you can outguess this thing, because I promise you, you cannot. So keep investing.
Yeah, that's such great advice. I hope you're taking notes. Because I am
throwing a lot at you. Yeah,
I am. Oh my gosh, that was it was great, and I know, and it's actionable. Thank you for sharing that advice. I know some people will come on and they'll want to keep all of their secret sauce to themselves, but really, like, that, just even, I think just knowing how much cash to have ready available in your business is a huge thing, because they just don't know that.
We have no secrets, Katie. Everything we have is we put out there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how you know that you guys have way more to offer, because you're willing to just share it all, which is awesome. The last question I have, and maybe we already kind of addressed it, but we're really big into metrics here. And as I've been thinking about what a recession looks like in dentistry, and like how that plays a part in our field, what in a practice would you say are, and I wrote red herrings here, but like, what should people looking at to like, okay, I'm like not in a good place in the event that we have an economic downturn?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would say profit margin is it, well, so I'd say, depending on where you are, right, in your practice, right? Meaning profit margin is the first thing that comes to my mind, is like how, when it comes to like health of your practice, right? That's the first thing that I look at, is just, what is your profit margin? Now, there is some nuance to that, right? So for example, if you're in year 2 of a startup and you're in straight growth mode, your profit margin is not going to be great. It's not going to be anything close to a practice that's 10 years in, that's dialed in and mature and has everything, figured out. They're just running smoothly. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind is profit margin, right? It's really pretty straightforward to like have that metric there for you and be reviewing that regularly. It's what I mentioned earlier, like why you should be reviewing your P&L on a regular basis to uncover, what is my profit margin? That's the first kind of like thing to look at. And then that gives you an idea of like, okay, is it where I want it to be with my stage of my practice and my career? If it's not, then let's say it's lower than you want it to be. Well, that gives you at least a direction to go, to now start figuring out, okay, let's go look at my expenses on the P&L side and see what's off. Or is this just simply a growth problem? Like maybe my fixed expenses are higher eating into my profit margin. I just have to go grow. Either way, your profit margin is going to be the first place I would look to indicate whether or not you're in a healthy place and you should be shifting your focus somewhere else in the business.
Yeah, that's really great. But one thing that, and I'll share, because we Dental Intelligence have been kind of thinking, okay, like, are we noticing trends? I mean, we have data of over 9,000 practices. And so are we noticing trends?
Just a few more than us, just a few more. Yeah.
It's just a little bit.
A few thousand more than us. Yeah.
That being said,
that being
said, we've taken a pulse on, and right now we're pulling the numbers for collections, but case acceptance, because I thought, well, let's look at case acceptance to see if it's changed over the last 6 months. Are people accepting less treatment, right? And nothing's changed. So yep. I mean that hopefully that gives some people some peace of mind, and I would dare to bet that the collections is probably in the same boat. But I'll pull those numbers and we'll share those on a later podcast.
And that's a great point you're making, Katie. That is, I think, a microcosm of what we're seeing in the national data right now, of saying the narrative right now of like recession and all this scary stuff is far more severe than what's happening in reality. Right. You just said it. You would think if we drill down into, oh, there's a horrible pun, unintentional. But if you get down into the details of the dental space, you'd say, well, you'd think case acceptance would be down right now, people preparing for this, but now this could flip on a dime, but right now it's not. And we're seeing that again across the board. Labor market again is a great example. The numbers in those areas do not indicate a recession right now. They don't. Again, things can flip. Like interest rates moving up on the mortgage side. Yes, it has slowed the housing market as far as activity. But again, narrative is much more scary right now than what the numbers are actually showing as of right now.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Fashion Place Mall in Salt Lake City, Utah, people.
Thriving.
It's thriving. I can't even find a parking spot. It's like Christmas every time
Yeah.
I go over there. So I think everyone's spending their money just fine. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, the data shows it. Yeah. Consumer spending is still up. Like people are still spending money. The average person in America, like the data shows that they're still in a healthy place from a debt perspective, from a cash flow perspective. Like everyone's still in a great spot. Again, this could totally flip. I'm not trying to predict anything.
Yeah, let's be sure. We are recording this on July 19th.
Yes.
Can I say that? So if you're listening to this in September and you're thinking those
all of a sudden
idiots,
things have flipped. Yes.
Yeah.
If that's the case, I'm sorry.
Yeah. But if you are listening to it when this comes out, I will say this has given me a lot of hope, a lot of peace of mind. I hope it's done that for you, dental practice owners, to know that things are going to be okay.
Yes, they will be okay. This is
be
totally normal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this has been great. Thank you for taking your time.
Of course.
With your busy day to come join it with me on Zoom. This has been Growth in Dentistry, a dental intelligence podcast. Again, special thanks to our guest, Matt Mulcock of Dentist Advisors. If you want to find him or use their services, which I highly advise that you
there
do,
it is.
you can go to dentistadvisors.com or check out the Dentist Money Show, which I listen to on a religious basis. It's so good. It's a good time. They just sit and banter about money and dentistry, which are
we do have fun.
Really nerdy things. You're a bunch of nerds.
We are a bunch of nerds for sure.
All right. Well,
Katie, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you to our marketing department, specifically on all the work on this podcast. I'm Katie Poulsen. Keep growing.